That was the week. It's July 1st, 2021. Happy July, Keith.
Thank you very much. It's a day early. It's Thursday, not Friday as well.
Yeah, well, you were supposed to go to Mexico and you're not going now.
We'll see. I'm hoping to go, but that'll be Monday if I do.
Well, if you go to Mexico, I hope you take your rifle because there's a lot of big game hunting in the newsletter this week. Hunting unicorns, Keith.
Yep. Well, it's another milestone, actually, Andrew. This is from a story widely disseminated based on Crunchbase data, of course. This is from Morning Brew, which is a very good newsletter. 199 unicorns so far in 2021. If you look at the graph of previous years, which I do have here, let me just put that on.
Graph or the graph, Keith?
Graph, but I'm from Yorkshire, so it's a graph.
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 The biggest number of unicorns any previous year was 178 in 2018, as you can see.
Well, it should go up. I mean, tech is accelerating. What's the big deal?
I think the big deal is the rate of acceleration. It's if the trend continues, it'll be 400 this year, which is not just
okay.
going
So we got
up.
199. Give me the trends. What's interesting? How are you breaking it down? Of those 199, are 198 in crypto?
No, very few are in crypto. Actually, you'll see a lot of medical, biosciences, and medical devices. You'll see a lot.
Well, I guess in our COVID age, that's not surprising.
No, leading category is fintech, which isn't surprising.
Which is kind of, I mean, everything in fintech ultimately is crypto, isn't it?
No, not really. Lots of stuff isn't. Although it was just revealed that Robinhood has billions in crypto. Next week, maybe we'll talk about, or the week after, Robinhood's
They got fined crypto, Robinhood.
Yeah, they got fined 70 million, but they also exposed today in their S1 filing that they have 80 billion under management. So 70 million is not even a slap across the wrist, really. But the trends are data, fintech, SaaS, enterprise SaaS, and a lot of bioscience, medical related stuff.
Any dating sites?
Say again?
Any dating sites?
There are no dating sites.
Any e-commerce? So what's not there was probably more interesting. No e-commerce, no dating?
Well, what's not there is the rest of the world. This is largely American.
And this is so no social media networks or platforms?
Nope, none of those. We've moved on from there. Not that it won't come back, because it obviously will, but for now at least, it's.
So the interesting thing is just the number. It's not really the identity of the startups.
It's the number. Now, why is the number interesting? The number's interesting unless you think it's fake, as in, people with money are making these unicorns just because they've got money. I don't buy that. I think it's real. And the reason it's a big deal is that the underlying infrastructure for startups is now global, multi-platform, that is to say web plus mobile, and multi-canvas. You've got blockchain, you've got the internet itself, you've got cloud and data. So you can start a startup with a clear idea and execute it. Live streaming is another one. The infrastructure for live streaming is virtually free.
Any live stream companies in these unicorns?
There are no live stream companies in there at all, because they already became unicorns in the previous batch.
And what about the sort of the connection with SPACs? In terms of the valuation, is this determined by investors? These are not public companies.
Yeah, the strict definition of unicorn is that a private round has been done at a valuation of $1 billion or more. So these are private companies, and the SPAC would only count if the company was at that level prior to the SPAC.
Any froth here, Keith? You're always the optimist. You never believe that the market's about to bust until it does. Are we out of control, or is this normal?
I think you can only judge that on a company by company basis. I don't think there's a bubble.
So we're not back in 1999.
We're not back in 1999. These are real businesses with very fast rates of growth and serious revenues.
And how does this affect the public markets? Is it likely that many of these will IPO? Is it more likely that they will cash out through SPACs?
Based on my data from Signal Rank, only about 20% of prior unicorns are now public. About 80% are still private, and their valuation is private to their investors. So, most of them will not IPO in the near time frame. No.
And what's about to hit the you're amassing all this interesting, valuable intelligence in early stage investing. What's the next chapter of the unicorn story? What industries? What areas?
Well, so I actually have a leaderboard of 700 companies that have received their first investments in 2019 or since 2019.
So what's about to hit?
And you're asking me a question I haven't studied the answer to. I'd have to pull it up.
Well, that's the $1 billion question, Keith. That's all anyone cares about. Where should we put our money? Where should we be doing startups? I don't want to hear about fintech. Fintech's an old story. What's the new story?
But at this point, why should I answer that question before I'm invested in them?
That is an important question. Well, I don't think anyone watches this, so you can tell me.
So, I'm going to I'll give you a sneak peek, Andrew. This is a sneak
I
peek.
like it, a nice sneak peek, Keith.
This is what I call company rank. The viewers will not be able to read this, so I can safely show it. And company rank basically has, if we do the analysis, the top is Hopin, then is Uncapped, then
and they're sort of basically an event business. Is that right?
They're an event business. Then you've got Dino Therapeutics, TaxBit, Dooley, Flatfile.
So these are companies that are about to become unicorns.
Some of them are already unicorns, but they only received their first investment since 2019.
But where you're still avoiding the question, which areas are getting hot or heating up?
Anything to do with remote work or events. Anything to do with
surprise. Although that may, in a post-COVID atmosphere, change.
Anything to do with therapeutics. Anything to do with
what's a therapeutic?
Therapeutics is therapies usually involving RNA or DNA, like the vaccine.
Oh, I see. So anything in the CRISPR space.
Anything in the CRISPR space. So look,
that doesn't surprise me.
Genesis Therapeutics is number 18 and Dino Therapeutics is number 4.
And does this also include some of these companies that are curing cancer now? Would you include them?
They will be included. Then you've got fintech. So you've got Equity B, you've got Phenom, you've got Claw, you've got Main Street. Then there's lots of data and cloud stuff. So these 700 companies, probably 100 of them are going to become unicorns. And if you know which 100, and you can get in.
So how do we get access to your database? You selling it?
No, this is a private database for Signal Rank Corporation, which is my new startup.
Well, how do you monetize Signal Rank? We all want to see Signal.
Well, what I'll tell you is, I'll tell you
when you put out a newsletter.
You're not going to see it for about a year, but then you will. What Signal Rank is doing is these 700 companies come from 30 seed funds. Those 30 seed funds over more than 10 years have a track record of producing unicorns. This is their current crop of companies. And what Signal Rank does is it applies data analytics to these companies and figures out an algorithm that separates the likely winners from the rest.
I get it. Can we be the media front end of Signal Rank, Keith?
We are already, Andrew.
We are the Signal, except I'm not being paid for this.
Me neither yet.
Yeah, but you own Signal Rank. I don't even have any percentage of Signal Rank.
Well, you got to provide me with some value.
Yeah, I'm never very good on the value side. Okay, well, let's move on. Interesting stuff on unicorns, shooting unicorns, the new big game hunting from Silicon Valley. One story that I like in your newsletter this week that really, I think, represents both the past and the future of the digital revolution is the Tim Berners-Lee NFT story. What is Berners-Lee never cashed in on the World Wide Web. It was one of the most generous acts, I think, in history after Jesus Christ. But now he's cashing in on one aspect of it. What's Berners-Lee up to?
So what Berners-Lee has done, and by the way, he's not cashing in because he's donating this to charity.
He's a
Um,
great guy. I mean, if there's any one single person, I think, who really has not disappointed us or gone bad or been corrupted is Tim Berners-Lee.
certainly seems the case. He has auctioned off the rights to the source code to the first web server for $5.4 million. I think it was at Sotheby's, if I'm not
I
mistaken.
think that's very valuable, actually, much more valuable than some of this crappy art being sold.
Well, it's interesting that it only got 5.4 million. My guess is the person who bought this at some point in the future will sell it for a whole lot more than that.
Yeah, it's a good buy. What does it tell us? I have to say that I'm bullish on NFTs. I think they make total sense because in an age of complete uncertainty where everything is reproducible, it reestablishes value, which proves that you can make money even from stuff that isn't obvious to make money from. Are you bullish on NFTs, Keith?
I'm very, very bullish on NFTs, and the obvious pushback is how can something that it doesn't exist physically be worth anything, and so in a way that's a silly question because if you take the best movies ever made, it isn't the rendering to film that makes them worth something. It's the
Yeah,
thing itself is worth something.
exactly. I mean, it's like art. I mean, the fact that the value of the paper or the frame on a Rembrandt of Vermeer is neither here nor there.
Yeah. So I think NFTs will be applied to all kinds of assets that will establish a trail of ownership and authenticity, and trillions of dollars of value will be unlocked because of NFTs.
I hope we're going to have an NFT for this show.
I experimented with putting our front cover on as an NFT a few episodes ago, and I didn't even get a single bid. So
Wow, maybe
after
maybe
our death,
someone watching will recognize the enormous value of this. But in all seriousness, Berners-Lee, again, remarkably generous man and interesting. Does this kind of historicize the web, Keith? Do you believe the web still is even a relevant term, or is it history also?
well, I always distinguish between the word internet and the word web.
Mm.
If you think of the internet as the underlying protocols like TCP/IP, which Vint Cerf and Bob Kahn invented, like Berners-Lee, they didn't get personally wealthy because of that, because in that era, protocols were not owned by people.
Right.
And networks didn't get paid. It was companies that implemented them that got paid.
But
So,
yes, but the Berners-Lee's web was the whole premise of it is its openness, and of course in mobile,
yeah, but now
nothing is open anymore. So,
well,
are we at the end of the age of openness?
no, actually, I think it's going to go the other way. I think what's happening now is because of blockchain and the protocols that sit on it, which are also open, where payment is earned by being part of the network, contributing servers or CPU power or
Mhm.
storage. Actually, people who invent protocols that get used will now get rich, whereas in the previous era, they wouldn't. So there's now a massive incentive to be the inventor of open protocols
So
because of
maybe you should
blockchain.
open up your database of for the rest of us.
Who says I won't? It's a secret.
Well, If you wait long enough, Keith will open his kimono. Another interesting story is WorldCoin for universal income. Sam Altman, who comes on this show from time to time, at least in virtual form, is back in action doing something both brilliant and crazy. What's he up to with WorldCoin?
Well, Andrew, you may not remember, and our viewers might not, but about 2 years ago, or less actually, you and I did an interview on something called Universal Basic Income.
Yeah, UBI.
UBI, and at that time I was promoting the idea that crypto was the solution to UBI by issuing tokens to everyone in the world.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. They're issuing tokens to everyone in the world who is prepared to go through the validation exercise, which, by the way, is a retina scan to prove
So
that
they're
you.
not. So this is not sort of a sophisticated next step in surveillance capitalism. They're not trying to invade our bodies.
No,
What's the point of the retina scan and all this?
to avoid you claiming twice.
Okay, but then they have the record of everyone in the world. It's a devious scheme, just like the Google guys originally downloaded the entire internet in the interests of humanity and then made fortunes on it.
Yeah, but no, they can do it the way Apple did it. If you think
But
about
they
Apple,
won't do it the way Apple does it because
no, 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 they will.
it's Altman and Hoffman.
No, they
They're
will.
not Apple people.
No, they will. They will. I don't know if you've ever used a retina scan. I've used one in the country of Jordan, actually,
What do you
quite a
mean in the
while
country
ago.
of Jordan?
Well, in Jordan, the ATM machines use they don't
Oh, I
use
see. Well, I
a
did it
card.
with Clear. I mean, Clear does retina scans, don't they?
Clear does thumbprints, I think. I don't know
No,
if,
also retina.
oh, maybe they do retina as well. But retina scans are fairly normal, and they can uniquely identify you. By the
Okay.
way, so can your heartbeat.
So
So
the
can
headline then is just another misunderstanding, over dramatization, misrepresentation of what they're trying to do.
yeah.
This is an interesting, and the players here are A players. There's Altman, Hoffman, and Andreessen Horowitz. I mean, those are heavy hitters. So this is for real, right?
I think it's for real, and I think they will actually issue a global currency for free to anybody who signs up. And because of its widespread distribution, that currency will start to be accepted by merchants, especially because it will have a value that is redeemable. So it'll be an experiment in a global currency freely issued to every citizen of every country.
But it requires a huge amount of spade work, and they can't just put it out there. I mean, how much money is involved? Have they raised money? Is it a
25 they've only raised 25 million so far, but this is one of those big ideas that.
Yeah, well, that Altman specializes in, and then will this connect with Altman's altruism? You and I had a conversation about Altman a couple of months ago about his
Yeah,
idea of redistributing wealth.
yeah, I think it's core to that. It's
But this is a
a way of.
for-profit. The thing with Altman is that I'm always suspicious. He always has these very generous theories and schemes, but then he creates these for-profit companies, so he's going to benefit from it.
Well, him and Reid Hoffman are in this company. I don't know if they're founders. That has not been
Okay.
disclosed. But Andreessen Horowitz has invested, and Coinbase has invested.
Yeah.
So, is it going to be for profit? Probably. But when you're talking about 7 billion people receiving spendable tokens, the share that goes to the company doesn't have to be very big for it to be a big company.
Maybe Keith, you and I should issue an NFT for that discussion where you had the idea first.
That is not a bad idea,
Did they
Andrew.
ask you for your permission to use your idea?
They didn't, but if they had done, I would have said, go ahead, because someone needs to do it. And I was talking about it, but I wasn't actually doing it.
Well, if WorldCoin does take off, there's no doubt that the regulators, the central banks, and the other regulators will be looking at this with a great deal of care and suspicion. And on the back of that, Keith, the last couple of weeks, we've talked about regulators, Lena Khan, all the developments in the FTC. What's happening on that front this week?
Well, my subheading this week is Big Tech Fights Back.
Ooh.
Although hot off the press today, you could have put a second one, which is big tech fights back, and then the FTC fights back again, because
Well,
there's
that's the
some
nature of
new.
politics. I mean, that's surprise, surprise. The great question for me is, where does Mark Zuckerberg have his hair cut?
I think his wife does it and puts a ball around his
I
head.
mean, if I was worth, how much is he worth? Couple of, I mean, how many billion? At least 100 billion. Especially after the spike in Facebook value because their antitrust thing got shot down.
So that's the story. Facebook reached $1 trillion when the federal court said that they are not that the FTC's complaint wasn't good enough to win. And
Surprise, surprise. I mean, I hate Facebook as much as anyone, but I don't see any antitrust case against them.
Yeah. So,
Do you think he can afford a haircut now?
He can certainly afford a haircut, Andrew, but I'm not sure our viewers spend their valuable time to debate such important points.
So where are we with Lena Khan? You were very patronizing a couple of weeks ago, saying, "Oh, she's a woman and she wrote this student paper." She's a heavy-hitting theorist, rethinking the whole nature of antitrust, and a lot of people are seeing her as the figure who is going to be most effective in pushing back against monopoly capitalism.
Yeah.
Have you changed your position on Khan? She's not just a student author anymore, Keith, is she?
But by the way, I was pretty nasty about her.
You were patronizing, and then you said, "Well, it's nice for a woman to have something written."
I did not say that, Andrew.
You did say
Let's
something.
let's go back and play it. I would
Let's do
never.
an NFT on it. Anyway,
As a
she's a
man,
serious player, and she's very credible, right?
yeah. But I do want to say that as a man raised by a single mom, I would never denigrate women, ever. So I
Do you
definitely
mean if
didn't
she'd
say
been
that.
raised with a father as well, you would?
I don't know. Who knows? But I was certainly shaped by a maternal influence that is very strong in me. Anyways, that said, no, I still think she's a student paper writer, over promoted into a position she has no ability to actually do. And I think she's going to she's made a big blunder today. Here's what she did today. It turns out, agrees with me that the acts on the book for antitrust, the Sherman and Clayton acts, do not have anything in them that would allow her to penalize big tech. So today they announced that they are no longer at the FTC going to limit themselves to prosecuting people who violate the Sherman and Clayton acts. They're going to extend their remit to other, quote, misbehaviors. So they're basically saying that
So
you're not against the law.
Are you the first person to suggest that Lena Khan is really Adolf Hitler or Joseph Stalin in disguise?
She's certainly extending bureaucratic rights to areas of business that she has no right to go to.
Well, I'm a big fan of Lena Khan. So Lena, if you're watching, continue to do it. Continue to upset Keith. He has been traumatized by you. Finally, Keith, startup of the week. It's not Lena Khan, is it?
It is not Lena Khan. It is, guess, Africa again. This is the
Africa again as a startup,
second
the whole
time.
continent.
Yeah, but this is we've had a theme on this program, show, vlog, whatever it is, about Africa, and this is a Boston Consulting Group report done for the World Economic Forum about technology startups in Africa, and it reinforces our theme that Africa is the rising star.
Your theme, not mine, because I don't know much about Africa, but I buy it, and I hope. I mean, nothing would give me more pleasure actually than Africa taking off technologically and being the new Silicon Valley. So that's good news.
This is the number of tech startups funded in Africa since 2015, year by year. So it's
When
still
are you
a
going to
small number.
relocate? Your wife's from Africa. When are you going to go back to Africa, Keith?
We went there last Christmas, and if the virus allows, we'll go there this Christmas. But
Did you go on safari? Did you see any unicorns?
We didn't go on safari. We went to the beach, but it is worth saying, Andrew, that South Africa, only 3% of people have been vaccinated. That's in South Africa. South Africa is the wealthiest nation in Africa, and probably most of those 3% are white. So it's yet another evidence that the poorer you are, the less likely you're going to have a decent life.
Can we blame Lena Khan for that?
No, we can't. She's off the hook.
Tweet of the week, Keith. My favorite part of the show.
Tweet of the week this week is from Edward Dorsey, whose handle on Twitter is
He
stock.
Jack Dorsey's brother, son, father?
I didn't actually think about that, so the answer is I don't know. But here's his tweet.
Shorter hair and no beard, so he's probably not Dorsey related.
He could be the clean Dorsey.
Yeah.
The
clean
2-year-old Substack on local Charlotte news is earning $175,000 a year when a typical local reporter earns $40K. Independent email newsletters are the future of local reporting with zero startup costs, flexibility, and incredible upside. This is the author of the Charlotte Ledger newsletter, Tony Messia. I don't know if that's
is it just him? Because is this just a newspaper or is it an individual writing?
This is an individual. He gets 12,500 a month, has 2,000 paid subscribers.
Well, independent news then continues. It can survive even the digital hurricane.
So if you think of the tools now, if you've got Review like we have, or Substack like he has, if you've got Restream like we have, if you've got
LinkedIn,
Clubhouse or a Clubhouse clone, you've basically got a full-on TV, radio, studio, and newspaper in one, pretty much for free. So it's going to be all about content and audience.
Content. Well, that's why That Was the Week is probably the best show about technology on the internet. Not because of me, but because of Keith Tier.
That's like Carlsberg, probably the best beer in the world.
Well, it is, isn't it? Except all the others. Keith, best of luck next week. I know you'll be glued to your television over the weekend. England, of course, will lose to the Ukraine, won't they?
They're going to lose to somebody somewhere along the path. We just don't know who, Andrew. That's the truth.
Well, that will be enjoyable. Keep well, Keith. Keep thinking, keep inventing, keep doing your NFTs, and have a great week. I will talk to you next week.
Will do, Andrew. Bye, everyone.